Welcome back to Ahead of the Game Sports Chat, brought to you by bets.com.au. It's Sports Pez Jez, Tuck Sports Takes. Here to preview Origin Game 2 in Perth. It's on Wednesday, June 18th. Jez, Game 1 wasn't what you wanted for as a Queenslander, eh? Or
No,
we wanted.
I even, yeah. Well, you tipped New South Wales to win. I think everybody tipped New South Wales to win, really. Um, but yeah, I thought Queensland could snag the first one. If they were going to snag one, it was going to be that first one at home. But it certainly didn't turn out like that. They were poor, like especially in attack. And then even if you look at it, like even in defence, they still let in 4 tries. So which is quite a lot especially in the first game. There's usually really low scoring games. So yeah, no creativity. Just didn't seem to have the mongrel. It wasn't a usual Queensland performance. So it is very, very scary leading into game number 2.
It is, mate. And I think that's what we're going to dissect a little bit in this game. What changes we can expect from both teams. And if we feel the squads that, well, primarily Queensland have thrown out there, not a lot of changes. One, I guess you'd say, forced.
One major.
Um, oh, yeah, major. Caught that. But I think there is a little bit to talk about. And I think at the end of this, we're going to leave with an idea about how we think the game will be played, what the result could end up, and we're going to give a bit of predictions around try scorers because I think that's the one where we can put our heads together and do a bit of competition as well, as we like to do on this
Ooh,
game. You
all
versus me,
right.
me versus you.
You versus me or me versus you?
Oh, that was the wrong button there. Let's go to this one. Tips and
Mm.
no, not even that. State of Origin Game 2 preview. Get there in the end. It's what happens when you don't have a full-time producer in the side of your show waiting to help you out. The game 2, Poss, heading to Perth in WA,
Mm.
and it's a ground where New South Wales have historically, well, there's been 2 games played there, and they have smashed Queensland in both of them. Do you think that's going to happen
Yeah.
again straight off the bat?
All right. So you're asking me we should have just used the first slide that you put through the front that said the predictions and
Okay, well, let's wait.
preview and prediction. But absolutely. I think it's look, look, 3 days ago, 100% but now the news that Mitch Moses is out, I think that's such a big out in my opinion for the New South Wales Blues. I think it gives Queensland just that little glimmer of hope because, like, even though yes, Luai's coming straight in, crazy you've got an 18th man in Matt Burton sitting there. That's a half, and you go over his head to bring in Luai straight in, which is like absurd to me. Then why isn't Luai sitting there as 18th man and let him play for Canterbury? Because that's what your 18th man should be, especially if he's coming in to fill in that position. But that's a whole nother thing. But fucking insane call,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah.
But yeah, bringing Luai in, I don't. Bringing the band back together, Luai and To'o and Edwards and I don't see Luai being the same player that Mitch Moses is. I don't think Nathan Cleary's in good enough form to be able to go, okay, this connection's it's going to work. I think Mitch Moses is in much better form. He was, in my opinion, the better player in game 1 when you compare the halves. So I think it's a massive out. Like I, I don't know. I've tipped earlier in the week. I was all on the blowout for New South Wales, but maybe this does end up a little bit closer than what we thought.
Do you think the game style will change in the way? Well, I guess it has to with the difference between Luai and Mitchell, but Mitch Moses. But the overall kind of game plan that New South Wales have, you could see it, I think, quite clearly in game 1. Their idea is to work it hard out of their own area with the 5 guys at the back
Yeah.
and bash the forwards. Do you see anything different happening there, or do you think the difference is going to be more in the dynamic broken play where Luai is maybe that's his type of game compared to the structured one of Mitch Moses.
Yeah, I think the danger that Luai brings for me, if you look at the days in Penrith, is yeah at the end of each half when the ball's hitting the ground and New South Wales are on the attack and he can sort of hop, skip, and jump around and cause problems like that. I think Moses is the better playmaker, so they were able to work both sides of the field. Now they're a lot more focus, I think, in attack, and that like Queensland need to shut down Nathan Cleary more than they need to shut down Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai will play a little bit more off the hip, a little bit like Cameron Munster, where they just create something out of nothing, but you can't really plan for that. Now that first ball or all the decision making is going to come to Nathan Cleary now, which is going to make it easier for Queensland to defend, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a. I don't really know how to approach it, to be honest. I think Luai has he won. They won the series last year with him and Mitch Moses. But is it the Mitch Moses factor? Or is it the Luai factor? I think
Mitch Moses. Mitch Moses.
Cleary needs to have a a dominant partner that helps the team out when he is getting railed by the defense,
Yeah.
and someone that's strong enough in a kicking sense, in a playmaking sense, that can distract the defense enough to say, okay, well, if he's going to go there, we still need to keep an eye on that guy on that side. So we can't just shift the defense 2 or 3 steps in because
Yeah.
Cleary's on that side. And I don't know if Luai brings it, but I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference because I think New South Wales are so dominant across the whole park that
Mm.
the potential loss you get from Moses not being there is not insignificant, but it's not enough to put them way behind the 8 ball against honestly a Queensland team that haven't really addressed their problems.
Yeah. Like where it's gonna hurt New South Wales the most, I think, is purely in their attack and in sort of inside 20 options or trying to create. I think Luai brings an unpredictability, but I think sort of the grind that New South Wales had to do, and you saw it, like Queensland made mistakes in that first game and put themselves under pressure, but it was the structure and the I don't know, like what's the word for it without saying anything harsh, but it's like the way that they just did all the small things right and made everything repetitive and put Queensland constantly under pressure from both sides, both players, both Mitch Moses and Cleary putting in these kicks and pinning Queensland back. It was evident that by the end of the game, New South Wales were going to score their tries because Queensland had to defend so much. They were bringing the ball out of their own end so much more, and like you said, their backs weren't as dominant moving the ball out. So all of a sudden, Queensland's engine room that is sort of underdone when you compare it to New South Wales, they had to work more, and there was always going to be more tries in New South Wales at the end of the games, and that's exactly what happened. So I don't know if by Queensland being able to shut down Cleary a little bit more, and yes, Jerome Luai has taken a bigger role at Wests in this exact type of aspect of his game. But is it at Origin level? Absolutely not. Like it's not. It's definitely not at the same standard as Mitch Moses. So I think that's still where Queensland could possibly have more gas in the tank because Mitch Moses isn't there. But obviously not through the middle. But I think you're gonna get worse kicks. They're gonna get a little bit better field position because Mitch Moses isn't there, and they can focus on shutting down Cleary.
Part of what you wrote in the game two preview on bets.com.au is that you thought the scoreline was flattering for Queensland, that it should have been more in game one.
Yeah,
Do you think more from a perspective that New South Wales should have scored more or Queensland should have scored less, or a
No,
combination of those?
Queensland. I thought that New South Wales possibly could have scored more, and that was saying because it did feel like at times when they were inside their 20 meters, this new combination of Cleary and Moses, you sort of felt like they were feeling each other out a little bit instead of just one of them making a decision or being more confident. They were
Right.
doing it like a lot of the time the ball was going, these short kicks to Moses, and it became a little bit predictable. Okay, this is what we've talked about. Um, so in that aspect, you almost feel like bringing in Luai could possibly help this cause because Luai and Cleary, they know their roles when they're together. They've won
Four.
four
Four.
premierships together. Like, so you know that they know their role with each other. So they could be more potent if they get these close range chances and build pressure in the red zone. But that's sort of where I felt that New South Wales were a little bit underdone, was just that hadn't flourished yet, primarily in attack.
Okay, let's shift the focus to Queensland now. I think they haven't addressed the problems that they had in game one with the changes they've made. So Tom Dearden comes in at halfback, Daly Cherry Evans, the captain, 2022 or 27, something like that, straight
Yeah.
origins. He's dropped. And, you can say what you want about Dearden and how well he's been playing and the form he's in, but I don't think you can take away or use that to then take away from Cherry Evans. I think Cherry Evans, he didn't have a bad game. I think it was a little bit of a scapegoat in terms of how bad the team was and just how bad the team is in comparison to New South Wales.
Yeah.
Um, there's also been some. We'll come back to that one in a second. There's also been movement in the forwards, which I think everybody says and thinks that they needed to have something different happen in the forwards. But whether this, bringing Kurt Capewell, Trent Liero to lock, Paddy Carrigan and Jeremiah Nanai on the bench, bringing in Kurt Mann as the utility. Like, what problem are they trying to solve? And it kind of tells me that Billy doesn't think they had a problem,
Mm.
and he's just going, "Well, it's the same. It's the same cattle. It's the same guys. The only problem was they couldn't create points when they got into the zone."
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know if this is actually gonna stand even once it's game time either. Like, it's pretty crazy that Patrick Carrigan's going to come off the bench. Even Jeremiah Nanai, I know that like the Cowboys did it for a little while as well, so maybe he starts on the bench, and sort of know what you're going to get with Kurt Capewell coming in. Like, he's just a workhorse, and he's probably, I don't know. It seems in these big games that he can pull something out of nothing and be that guy that he's either going to make the line break or pop a ball and create something. But I think he's brought in just because he's sort of a safe card. It was okay, no one can really say anything if I bring in Kurt Capewell and put him straight into the starting lineup because he has the Queensland pedigree and has done so well for so many years. So it's like, okay, you bring in Corey Horsburgh, for instance, and it's like, okay, well, people can attack that straight away. Like,
Mm.
and if it goes bad, like, people will jump straight on you. If it goes good, you're a fucking hero. But if everyone's going to be like, okay, bring in Corey Horsburgh, he gets fucking a sim bin in the first 5 minutes because he can't control his emotions. Everyone's going to
Mm.
go, well, you're an idiot. So I think Capewell was that sort of easy card for them. But like, I don't know if that starting 13 will be the same starting 13 that runs out on Wednesday, because
It feels a little bit that
yeah,
maybe he's trying to protect Carrigan and Nanai from that first 10 minutes, that barrage of tackles and runs that you get so fatigued. And then they'll have an opportunity then to go up against the bench forwards of New South Wales and maybe have a greater impact and continue that intensity. But Paddy Carrigan and Jeremiah Nane aren't that kind of player either. So
no,
it's
like I think I think Nano can be that type of player. I think Nano can be a really good impact player off the bench because of the style and sort of that speed and the all of a sudden you've been defending your line on a certain way and then you've got Nano running the angles that he does or putting the ball, the usual kick to Nano that Cowboys Queensland have used forever. Like once you've been defending a certain way on your line, I think it's hard to go, okay, shit, Nano's on. So I think those first sets and those first attacking sets could be a key for Nano. But Pat Carrigan, I don't know what you get. Like that's what I mean. It's
Mm,
like you would feel more that even a player like Ruben Cotter could be more impactful off the bench than
mm,
Carrigan because he's also come in with a bit of mongrel. Um, something that like Corey Horsburgh could have brought in if he was going to come and play the game. But I don't know. Do you want to discuss what do you have an opinion on Corey Horsburgh not being brought in? Or do you feel that it was the right decision purely based on this whole topic that I don't know, I guess plenty of people have been talking about of he's just a little bit too much of a loose cannon right now?
I think in my if I was the coach, I would have brought him in because I think what the team is missing right now is that emotional guy and one that'll, you know, put his whole body on the line, everything. He'll put everything on the line and it'll show and it'll lift the team. Because I think they're in the hole anyway. Like they're not at even footing right now heading into this game. They are much further behind. So in my aspect, you're like, what I think, what I see is I think Billy believes his team is just as good, but they're not. And he thinks that it could hinge on a penalty or a sin bin or a whatever. It's not going to hinge on that. The only way
Mm,
Queensland win this is if they are just brilliant and New South Wales shoot themselves in the foot
yeah.
because they're not a good enough team to win on an even platform against against the Blues. So I would have brought him in, but I also understand why he's not there. But if I was coach, he'd be playing.
Yeah. And it's like, I also feel sorry for Bo Fermoy. Like he
Yeah,
he did good when he came on,
yeah,
and he also was just like, okay, well, he's last in, first out almost because he still did a good job, and he's been due for a Queensland appearance for a long time,
mm,
and has sort of struggled with injury and stuff. And he come on and he was solid, but it's like I don't know, like in Origin and Origin teams, there's always this phase of okay, we stay faithful to our old dogs and not do anything with these sort of new players, and then I think you lose a couple of series in a row, which is the likely outcome in this game
yeah,
or in this series, and then all of a sudden, okay, well, next year Billy mightn't have a job for that
yeah,
matter because it hasn't gone so well for him really after those first couple of series, and even he hasn't won a series 3-0. So I don't think, but it's like his job's on the line, and then all of a sudden, a lot of these sort of older players where Queensland have been really, really committed to and loyal to, you you have to start asking questions because guys like Corey Horsburgh knocking on the door, Bo Fermor should have a full time spot. We can go into the whole Ezra Man thing as well, like, and then we've got obviously Daly Cherry Evans, who what is he going to retire now or like from Origin football, or does he try and stay eligible next year? What happens in game three if it goes to shit for Munster and Dearden? Do you bring Cherry back in? He is the captain. Like, there's
mm.
going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah, and on that switch, Tom Dearden and Daly Cherry Evans, I believe it was a bit too hasty. I don't think Tom Dearden is setting the world on fire. His team have lost four of their last five, and had a pretty shocking start to the season as well. I don't see him as the same type of game manager that Daly is, and you know, I think DCE has maybe not reached the heights that he has had over the past couple of years, but he's still one of the best halfbacks in the league in experience and just being able to control a game. What's missing is the cattle around him, and it's the defense from this team that's been shocking. It's not that they're failing in attack; they're getting monstered defensively,
Yeah.
and they just don't
Well,
have it in them there
they're,
to attack and be good
yeah,
enough.
they're like failing heavy in attack. If you think
Yeah,
compared to the third game last year, first game this year, and like that try was just bullshit. They should have really been got a duck egg
mm,
in reality of it all. But like, okay, I'm going to throw something crazy out there. So mark this spot. Like, do you think instead of Daly Cherry Evans being dropped because he's your game manager, do you think they
Munster.
should have looked at dropping Cameron Munster?
Yep.
And then you've got two options. You bring in Dearden because he's similar. You know, you've all of a sudden got a hard running six, or do you bring in a live wire like Ezra Mann and just jump the whole queue? And he's someone that can create something out of nothing. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
controversy there. Like, would have that been the better option in reality? Is it Billy being loyal to like Munster did fuck all? So you can't say that it was just Cherry.
Yeah.
Cherry managed the game, like I just sort of mentioned with New South Wales, maybe struggling with field position and territory compared to what they did in the first game. You've just dropped the guy that is the like one of the top three game managers in the whole NRL.
Mm, yeah.
So
And I think definitely Munster. And that's why it's a little bit worrying that they've given him the captaincy now as well, because it's like signaling that, oh, you're here to stay. Your spot is secure, but at the same time they drop the captain. So I don't know. But
yeah, right.
we've been saying for the last kind of two Origin series, you're waiting for Munster to break it open, to be his old
Yeah,
self. And why he was so good was his dynamic running, his ability to just break the game open single handedly. And he doesn't have that anymore. He hasn't been doing it in the NRL. He hasn't been doing it at Origin. What
he's
more
got to
does
get
he
back on
bring
the
to this team?
piss. That's the thing. He's gone too healthy. He stopped drinking beer. When he drinks beer, he makes stupid decisions. When he's a little bit hungover, you're a little bit more loose, so you do crazy shit. I think that's the problem with Munster at the moment. He's got to get back on the beers.
Okay, so your thoughts at the start of last week was that New South Wales are going to win 13 plus, and you kind of hinted at the start of the show today that you weren't so sure that was going to still be your pick. Where are you sitting, mate?
I don't know. Like now we're talking. I even brought my other. I was ready when I was coming in here to swap hats and put on my fucking faded Queensland Bogan Forex bidder hat and start tipping Queensland. But I don't know. The more we're talking, the more like I'm still extremely worried about Queensland. Like
Let's run through
13
some
plus.
stats here before we give our predictions. New South Wales won 6 of the last 7 game twos, and
Yeah,
5 of those results have been 20 plus point margins. That's a
yeah,
big trend, man. You can't like it's
yeah.
difficult to buck that.
There's a lot of big trends here coming.
Um, New South Wales scored an average of 31 points in their past 6 game twos and an average of 41 in the 2 games in Perth. Now, I think this definitely has an effect. You go to a ground where you know you've gotten flogged multiple times, and you go to a
And
ground where
recently,
you've flogged a
like,
team multiple times, then that plays on you. You feel it in the walls. You're not in the dressing room. There's thing like it's definitely going to make a have an effect.
yeah.
The Blues combined for 4. The Blues backs combined for 4 line breaks to Queensland's 1. Now we didn't mention it, but Hamaso and Val Holmes have switched positions. Do you think it's a defensive switch or an attacking switch?
I think it's a good switch. I think it's a good switch for in attack for both of these players, but defensively, I'm worried just by having the sort of the smaller winger on the outside. Like I think,
Mm,
but if is he going up against Toto or I don't know. So I don't know. I'm just a little bit worried. Like, yeah, he's a fullback, but it's so different to be peppered under kicks all the time on the wing compared to what the kicks you're sort of facing as a fullback, especially on your line when you got to be more flat-footed.
Mm.
So I'm a little bit worried about that, but I think Val Holmes definitely defensively is better in the centres. He's played that role a lot for Queensland, and I think he's a stronger defender there than Hammer. And then I think Hammer's speed on the wing, I think, can be key because I think Queensland were trying to spread the ball early, and that's when they looked their best in game one was when they were spreading the ball from their own half because they know they couldn't match it with the forwards, like New South Wales forwards, and they weren't getting the meters they needed. So throwing the ball out on like tackle three would work for them, and then I think you can all of a sudden cause a little bit of an overlap, and then I think Hammer can use his speed then to be able to break the line. So I think for Queensland it's better, but I think defensively for Hammer, especially on the line, is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think Val defensively, he's going to run up, he's going to jam in, leave a big hole. They'll exploit that, New South Wales. So um, last game, I think they put Lomax up against that. Yeah, Coates was up against Toto, I think, because they
Yeah,
wanted to try and take the advantage in attack rather than
yeah,
having them compete. Zach Lomax and Coates. We'll see what happens in this game, I guess, once they run out. You never really know, even with the dream
and
list.
Queensland need to do something about that. There was too little ball in the air to
Mm.
Coates against Toto.
Yeah. If that was your
Like
game plan,
that's your
having him
one
there
point.
to have the mismatch and you don't kick to him.
And then you don't kick there. Like it was just all these sort of short kicks they were doing all the time as well. Queensland thinking that like to Nanai, and you
Mm.
just like it didn't work. So yeah, crazy that he didn't see more ball. And Coates has been in such good form for Melbourne, so it's just nuts.
The last stat I want to throw in here is New South Wales have won their last two game twos when taking the opening match of a series. So when they win the first game, the last couple of series, they've gone on to win the second one and secure the series.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
your
that's
what's your
huge.
your tip? I'm going 13 plus New South Wales.
Yeah, I don't think the power of the hat is going to do anything. Like the more you sort of break it down, the more you feel that it is, yeah, it's going to take something special from Queensland and something really poor from New South Wales. Pray for rain, something like that. It's been raining all the time. It feels like in Perth, you watch a lot of the AFL stuff, and it feels like it's been so many games where it's
Yeah,
rained
yeah.
when Freo and West Coast have played. So pray for rain, and then it's a roll of the dice sometimes in those matches.
Head up over to bets.com.au. Have a look at the game previews and tips that Jez has in there. Also, getting the best odds that you can find across Australian bookmakers. So solid. Try scorers, let's wrap them up before we hit the 30-minute mark. Zach Lomax has been one that we're on all across first try scorer, anytime try scorer.
Every time he plays.
He's a magnet to the try line, and
Yeah,
he's been
yeah.
playing so well in his origin games and as well for Parramatta.
I can't believe he didn't get man of the match. It was on him last game for man of the match.
Yeah.
Payne Haas, well deserved, but the guy that broke open that game was Lomax, for sure.
Any kind of roughies that you think might have a chance, if especially if it's a 13 plus to New South Wales?
Look, there's a guy in New South Wales that I am quite surprised when I looked at it that he hasn't scored for the Blues yet, and that's Hudson Young. He's played 4 games.
Yep.
Hudson Young is a try scoring machine. And yes, he's coming off the bench, which, if you're a punter, gives you so much more value. So I like him to score because he's playing now in his 5th match. He's scored 10 tries in 13 games for Canberra this year. So like I think certainly if this game ends up a blowout, because I think there's another stat that we didn't mention that New South Wales in their 2 games they've played in Perth have averaged 41 points. think it
Yeah.
was like 44 and 38 or something like that in their 2 games there. So if there's a lot of tries, I think you're going to see Hudson Young be as hungry as anybody, like Big Papa was on the weekend, trying to score a try for the Raiders. What a story that was! But yeah, I think he's going to be like, he's an absolute demon and he runs at the line super hard. And I think he's going to be hungry as this game to put his stamp on Origin footy to make sure that he's not in and out of selection for the Blues. So, yeah, I like him and really good value. I'm just going to check. You're getting like over $5, closer to 540, 550 at different bookmakers. So, that's a decent one to have at least a little dabble on.
Hmm. Second rowers in general, I think for New South Wales are all good shouts. Liam Martin, Angus Crichton.
Yeah,
For Queensland, the Hammer obviously a pretty good choice. Val Holmes is probably the most prolific try scorer for Queensland in recent history, but most of those tries have come from the wing. So
yeah.
now Hammer is out on the wing. I think you might see him, as
Val will
you kind
hog
of
it.
alluded to earlier,
Val wants the
have
glory.
sorry.
Val will hog it. He'll keep it. He'll do the dummy and go at the line himself. Come on.
I'm thinking long range
Yeah,
tries are more where Queensland might have an
yeah,
opportunity
hundred
there.
percent.
And if Queensland are to win, it's going to be off the back of someone who really tries to change the game. And I think Harry Grant could be one of those guys where he gets out a dummy half, does a lot more running, burrows over from a play of the ball to really lift the team. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I try and make the narrative
Good
of
tip.
in my head of how Queensland win, that's the guy I fall on because I don't think Munster has it anymore. I don't think it's going to be Dearden. It's going to be too much pressure on him. It has to be Harry Grant.
Mm,
So book
yeah,
him in for a try as
I
well.
think Harry's bit had a like lately. It feels that Harry's been pretty shit. Like when it comes to playing for
Yeah.
Queensland, he hasn't really had that impact
No.
that you'd expect him to have. So
He's
yeah,
another guy
certainly
that
a guy.
if he doesn't step up in this game or this series, he could also be on the chopping block for next year. Um,
Yeah,
you could see a whole clean out of these guys that have gone on now to lose a couple of series.
yeah. Like I think if something doesn't change in this game, I'm ready for it as a Queensland supporter. Like I definitely would not be upset if they just cleaned it all out for game 3, gave some people a start, bring some more guys into the squad, and just start building again because the
Yeah,
guys now we're in that, oh, do we, don't we? And I think you just need to clean it out, especially if you lose this one. It's a dead fucking rubber. Give them a run
rip the
and get
band-aid
some new
off.
talent. Yeah,
All
100%.
right. Head over to bets.com.au for game previews for NRL, AFL, supercars, Formula One, racing. It's all there. Let us know in the comments who you think's going to win this Origin game too. Will New South Wales clinch the series once again, or will Queensland send it to a decider in game 3? Try scorers as well. We love backing try scorers. We'll catch
Mm.
you. Oh, that's not my exit. It's your exit.
Mhm. Yeah, catch on the flip side. What are you going to say? Catch on the
Oh,
flip side and stay with us, hang with us, and stay ahead of the game.